When I was in elementary school, scary stories were all the rage. We had all sorts of stories like Hanako-san of the toilet, Kuchisake Onna, etc. They weren't especially different to other schools of the time, but we did have one story that was unique to us alone. If you opened the door to the hall leading to the gym at exactly 3:56 p.m, then for some reason, some stairs would mysteriously appear. And if you climbed those stairs, then your grades for your weakest subjects would suddenly get better. But if you didn't climb them, or you were unable to climb them, then it was said that you'd die. One Saturday afternoon, my friends A, B, and I decided to try it out. This door was past the staff room, the tea room, and the equipment closet, so we chose Saturday because it would be less busy. We generally used that hall to get to the gym on rainy days, but it was closed if it was sunny. On this day, it was sunny. A secretly brought a watch from home, and we used that to open the door at the precise time. Inside, the third grade teacher was dead. I don't really remember what happened after that. The moment we opened the door, we were hit by the smell, which I still vividly remember, but I don't remember what the teacher looked like. We sat on the sofa in the principal's office while we waited for our parents, crying the whole time. I had pretty awful dreams for a while after that too. After that, the stories about that mysterious staircase changed to the ghost of that teacher. The hall was completely sealed shut after that, and a few years after we graduated, the school building itself was torn down. But even now, there are still rumours of a ghost haunting the storehouse that now stands where that hall was. I heard about it from a former classmate when I recently returned home. For some reason, it still gives me the chills. Even now, I don't want to go back near that school ever again. Hey guys, I'm your host Tara A. Devlin, and welcome to this week's episode of Kawabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. In case you missed it, Toshiden Exploring Japanese Urban Legends Volume 4 is now available. Once again, there are a host of new legends to explore, both horrifying, bizarre, and otherwise. And of course, a new season of the podcast that has just wrapped up. So if you haven't checked that out yet, it's available right now. You can also find the audiobook for the first volume of Toshiden, either on our Patreon, Fourth Wall store, or various audiobook outlets, including Spotify and Audible. So don't miss out on that either if you're still looking for more. This week, we're heading back to school. Not to study, no, but to be terrified. Not by lessons, but by the other things that lurk in those dark, quiet halls and empty classrooms. First up, a broadcasting club decides to share their school's 7 mysteries for the upcoming cultural festival. But there's just one problem. Their school is too new to even have 7 mysteries at this point. So, what else can they do but make one up? But this plan may soon have terrifying consequences. Find out why in 7 School Mysteries. This is a story from the junior high school my friend attended. Shortly before the cultural festival, the broadcasting club that my friend was in was discussing what they would do for it. They went through various ideas and finally decided on introducing the school's 7 mysteries as a scary story. However, this school was relatively new, so even after asking the teachers and older students if they knew any stories, they weren't really able to gather much. The cultural festival was rapidly approaching, so they couldn't exactly change their plans, and scary stories like this were also popular at the time as well. And so they decided to go with some common tropes, like hearing the piano playing late at night in the music room, or the model in the art room changing poses by itself, or a certain set of stairs where people would always trip at the exact same spot. They were easily able to put together 6 stories, but they weren't able to decide on something for the final one. Then, one of the girls who had been unusually quiet all day, a girl who was a little odd and claimed she could see ghosts, finally proposed an idea. Her plan was this. The drama club was set to follow the broadcasting club, and the final school mystery would claim that there was a ghost member in this drama club. They'd get some friends involved in this beforehand and have them start screaming about how they saw a ghost during the drama club's performance. Everyone was on board with the idea, agreeing that it sounded interesting, and so they each went to ask some of their friends to play their part too. On the day of the festival, the broadcasting club finished their presentation in the auditorium as planned, and then the drama club appeared. The lights went off and a lone spotlight appeared on the stage. As the performance was reaching its end, members of the audience started to murmur, just as planned, with the noise gradually getting louder and louder. "Oh my God! No way!" As the voices got louder, my friend thought they were finally getting to the good part. But ultimately, it never went any further than that, and the cultural festival ended without incident. Still, it wasn't a total waste, because after the festival ended, the story of the ghost member in the drama club became quite popular throughout the school. It turned out that even random members of the audience claimed to have seen a ghost during the performance, and not just those the broadcasting club had asked to join in on their little plan. The story got even more exciting when their teacher put up photos from the festival in the hall. One of the photos from the drama club showed what appeared to be white mist behind the members on stage. According to my friend, it honestly didn't really look like a ghost, but considering the rumours going around, everyone claimed it had to be one. The girls all screamed about it and the boys kept joking about it, telling everyone they could about it. Meanwhile, the broadcasting club were beyond pleased with themselves, like they were the reason all this was going on. But the person who came up with the idea was the only one who didn't seem happy about it. My friend asked her why, but all she said was, "No reason." And so he ignored it and went on with his day. Around 3 months later, after everything had started to finally calm down, members of the drama club started to quit one after the other. This wasn't a big club to begin with, so within a month, everyone had left and the club was disbanded. Being one of the people who had started the rumours, my friend felt bad, so he indirectly asked one of the former drama club members about what happened. After a moment of hesitation, they told him that strange things had started happening in their club room, and while they were practicing, some people claimed to see a ghost. They got scared, and so they quit. Of course, this was rather surprising, so he told the other broadcasting club members about it, and then they decided to tell their teacher about everything. The psychic girl still looked unhappy, but either way, they all agreed. When they told their teacher about it, he looked troubled, but he said he'd share the story with the drama teacher for now, and they should apologise to the drama club members as well. A few days later, their teacher arranged a meeting with the drama club students and teacher, and everyone other than the psychic girl, who wasn't at school that day, apologised. They bowed deeply, but when they stood back up, the drama club students and teacher all started laughing. Confused and a little lost, the drama club teacher explained that since the cultural festival story, on top of the ghost photo, the drama club members were seriously scared and couldn't focus on their rehearsals. The teacher, troubled by this, racked his brains over what to do when he overheard another student talking about the prank the broadcasting club had set up. Immediately, he told his students, and, unable to believe it, they decided to get revenge. The drama club teacher was pretty easygoing to begin with, so he agreed, and they came up with the plan for everyone to quit the club. Even if my friend hadn't asked about it, apparently the plan was for the story of everyone quitting over a ghost to eventually reach the broadcast club's ears. The drama club students then asked who originally came up with the prank, and they told them it was the psychic girl who wasn't there that day. "I knew it!" one of them cried. Apparently, that psychic girl was close friends with one of the girls in the drama club, but they got into a stupid fight and their relationship soured so much that they weren't even talking to each other anymore. "She knows I hate anything to do with ghosts. That's why she did this," the girl cried angrily. She swore she'd say something to her about it the following day, and then everyone went home after agreeing it was time to restart the drama club once more. But the next day, that psychic girl missed school again. In fact, she stopped coming to school at all after that. There was no way she'd drop out of school over something like this, but in the end, they never saw her again. The broadcast club president even went to her house to check on her, but when he got there, nobody was home. There was no sign that anyone even lived there. A few days later, they heard from their teacher that she had changed schools and moved. My friend couldn't help but find that weird, however, and when he went to the broadcast room, he heard a strange rumour from one of the other members. Apparently, while the official story was that the girl had changed schools, in reality, rumours were spreading that she was actually dead. They wondered how that rumour could have started, as nobody in the broadcast club knew about it, and then it hit them. That girl from the drama club. No matter what had happened, they felt like this time they had gone too far. So the broadcast club members made their way over to the drama club to talk to them about it. They called out the girl in the middle of rehearsals and asked her about it, but she claimed it wasn't her. She heard that story from someone else and was just as surprised as they were. They asked the other drama club members about it, but none of them knew where the rumour came from either. They then asked their teacher about it, but he just looked confused and said he heard from her parents that she'd changed schools, and that was it. And so, unable to find out where this rumour had come from, it started to spread like wildfire throughout the school as a new, scary story. At the start of the next year, the leader of the broadcast club died. It was so sudden and he'd showed no signs of being depressed or in trouble. My friend was so shocked that he couldn't focus on his studies for a while after that. But with exams coming up, everyone agreed not to talk about what happened, and in the end, my friend passed his exams and was able to go to his high school of choice. The year after that, the new leader of the broadcast club also died in an accident. My friend heard that he was hit by a car on the way to school. With tragedies happening 2 years in a row, rumours began to spread once again. People claimed that it was connected to what happened at the cultural festival 2 years earlier, and with the stories of the death of the psychic girl as well. Well, people claimed the broadcast club was cursed. The ruckus got so big that the teachers had to address their students at morning roll call and remind them, rather harshly, not to spread baseless rumours. The year after that, the new leader of the broadcast club successfully graduated without incident. The teachers all sighed in relief and happily saw their students off at graduation. But not even a few days later, during the spring holidays, the school received news that the boy had died of a heart attack. The following year, the broadcast club was disbanded, and even now, that school still doesn't have one. Instead, the teachers handle the lunch and after-school broadcasts themselves. Rumours on the playground speak of a mysterious spirit known as Sunashiro-sama. This spirit can help you find what you have lost, and many attest to its powers. But is that really true? A group of young friends are about to test that theory with surprising results. Find out why in Sunashiro-sama. Maybe this scary story only existed at my school, but have you guys ever heard of Sunashiro-sama? At my school, there was a large red metal bar in front of the sandpit, and we used to treat it like a shrine gate and pray before passing under it. Then, with our backs to both it and the sandpit, we'd say a chant, something like, "Sunashiro-sama, please uncover that which I have lost." Then, you would throw a 10-yen coin into the sandpit, and if you could find it again, then you would also be able to find whatever it was that you had lost. There were rumours that one of the older kids had found his lost cat this way, and that someone else had found their wallet. The rumours kept spreading until us boys split into two factions, the believers and the non-believers. According to believers, this only worked if you actually did believe in Sunashiro-sama. So, if you tried it and were unable to find what you were looking for, then it was your fault for not believing in the first place. One day, long after all the buzz about Sunashiro-sama had died down, A-kun, a non-believer, was playing with 4 or 5 of us at school with his younger sister. But as we were playing, she wandered off somewhere. We all split up to find her, but we couldn't see her anywhere. Right as the sun was starting to go down, A-kun then seemed to suddenly remember something. "Let's ask Sunashiro-sama," he said. We nervously followed him, but as we reached the shrine gate, he realized that he didn't have a 10-yen coin. As we all discussed whether anyone else had one, A-kun spotted a coin beside the iron bar and picked it up. Lucky there was a spare. Oh, it must be a coin that someone else wasn't able to find. Hurry up and do it, we all said. But A-kun alone stopped and appeared to be deep in thought. Then, suddenly, he ran to his bike. "I've got to go somewhere, so you guys go back without me," he said. He rode off, but everyone was so confused and surprised that they got on their own bikes to follow him. Only B-kun remained behind, but in the end, they weren't able to catch up with him, and everyone then went home. The next day, B-kun said that A-kun visited a small shrine, and there, beneath the shrine gate, he found his younger sister holding her knees and crying. Because he found the 10-yen coin under that iron bar, he was sure that he would find his sister under a shrine gate too. By the time we were in high school, that iron bar had been painted blue, and we never heard stories of Tsunashiro-sama ever again. The toilets of this particular school have flower decorations in each of the stalls, but there's one toilet in particular where that decoration seems to be hiding something behind it. What's the terrifying history of this particular stall? Find out in Violet Wall Decoration. This happened around 13 years ago now. When I was in the 4th grade, the girls' toilets on the 4th floor had 6 stalls, and in each of those, there was a flower decoration hanging on the wall. Each stall had a different flower, like a hydrangea, or pansy, or violet. I liked the 3rd stall from the right because it had a pressed violet decoration, so whenever I went to the toilet, I used that stall. So one day, when I was in the toilet, suddenly I looked at the pressed violet decoration right in front of me. It had started to roll up a little, and I could see the wall behind it. 63rd year of Showa, rest in peace, so-and-so-chan, was written in permanent marker. I think the name said Satomi or Satoko. A chill ran through me and, for a moment, I couldn't move. This wasn't some kid's prank. That was the writing of an adult. What the hell? Did somebody die here? An accident? Illness? Something else? I was so scared that I fled from the toilet and kept running. So anyway, this year, I returned to my old school to do some volunteer work and help with the local festival. I was in charge of the 4th graders' bazaar, and things were so busy that I couldn't even go to the toilet. It wasn't until we were done that I could finally go, and as soon as I opened the door, I suddenly remembered everything. Everything I had completely forgotten about up until that point. This was that toilet. I broke out into a cold sweat as I remembered it. I peeked into the 3rd stall and let out a small scream before I could stop myself. It was still there. The pressed violet decoration. It had turned yellow with age, and the violet had faded as well, but it was clearly the same one from my childhood. Maybe I was mistaken about what I saw that time as a kid. With trembling hands, I lifted the decoration up to check behind it. As soon as I saw what was behind it, I was filled with regret. The permanent marker had faded over the long years, but it looked like someone had written freshly over it. 63rd year of Showa, rest in peace, so-and-so-chan, it still clearly said. I screamed. My skin broke out into goosebumps and, no longer needing to use the toilet, I fled from the scene. None of the teachers from my childhood were still around, so I couldn't ask anyone what that wall decoration really was. But I couldn't help but wonder. What on earth was it? It's still the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. A young boy is made to clean the music room after school as punishment for misbehaving, but when he's briefly left alone, it appears he might not be as alone as he thinks. Who's that running out in the hall? Find out in You Mustn't Reply. This happened when I was in elementary school. Our school building was around 40 years old, and there were pieces chipped off the walls all over the place. The curtains were shabby, and it was overall pretty rundown. One day, the teacher made me clean the third-floor music room after school. I had torn an eraser to pieces and made a mess with it, so this was my punishment after everyone else went home. At first, the teacher was there with me, but then she got a phone call, so she went to the staff room, leaving me alone. And so, I figured I'd half-ass it and then go home. I walked around the room with a broom barely doing any sweeping, annoyed the whole time. But then, I heard a voice call out from the hallway, and it sounded like someone was running. "Hey!" It was a boy's voice. I opened the door and looked into the hall, but nobody was there. Somebody had to be playing a prank, I thought. But then, it happened again. Someone screamed, "Hey!" And then footsteps ran down the hall. "What?" I replied. I don't know why I did that, but I still regret it, even now. The footsteps continued down the hall and went into the science room next door. I continued cleaning, but then I heard that same voice coming from the direction the footsteps ran. "Hey!" The footsteps then approached again. "What?" I called out again. This time, the footsteps stopped dead. Everything fell silent, and this time, the voice that called out was much quieter. "Hey!" This time, it sounded different, like an old man, low and deep. Terrified, I froze on the spot. But then I started to think that whoever was out there was making their voice lower on purpose, and annoyed, I opened the door to look outside. Nobody was there. The hall ended just past the science room. Maybe they were hiding in the science room then. But then I remembered that the doors were locked. I tried to open them before I entered the music room, and they were shut tight. All the colour left my face. Terrified, I ran back into the music room so I could put the broom away and then flee. I shoved it into the cleaning closet, but I was panicking so much that it wouldn't go in properly. This made me panic even more, and then I suddenly sensed a presence right behind me. I was too scared to move, so I looked sideways and saw what appeared to be a red face. Kind of like a Tengu mask, you know? Then a deep voice rumbled right next to my ear. At that point, I think I passed out. "Hey, are you sleeping?" It was the teacher who woke me up. I tried to tell her what happened, but I was crying so much that I couldn't explain it very well. A monster! A ghost!" I yelled. But the teacher was just confused. Still, I wasn't acting normal, so the teacher waited with me until I calmed down, and then sent me home. After that, the teachers patrolled the school grounds, thinking that maybe someone had broken in, but they couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. But the footsteps sounded soft and light to me, so I don't think it was an adult. And for quite some time after that, I was unable to walk around the school alone. People often talk about schools being built on top of cemeteries, but that wasn't the case with our school. I even asked my parents and teachers after I graduated whether anyone had died at school, but apparently no such thing ever happened. This school has a strange hole in the ground that looks like a holding pond, but the students are warned never to fill it and to never, ever put live creatures in it. But why? What lurks at the bottom of this strange hole in the ground? Find out in Snake God. Behind the elementary school I went to as a kid, there was something like a small pool. You know how there are tanks like a bath that are full of chemicals you soak in before you go swimming, right? Well, it was around the same size as one of those, and it had steps leading up so you could get into it. But this wasn't made of tile, but rather stone, and it was shaped like a hole in the ground. Everyone thought it was a holding pond or something, and there were once plans to fill it with water and put some goldfish in there. But the school janitor, who was a local, violently opposed the idea, and so it never came to fruition. "Stay away from it," he said to us. "And whatever you do, never fill it with water and put live creatures in it." He then surrounded it with stakes and barbed wire. Still, we'd all been inside it at least once, so we had no idea why he was so touchy about it. One of my friends at the time, A, was a bit of a brat. He was the type of kid who, if he was told not to do something, had to do it. And so, one night during the summer holidays, 4 of us, myself included, planned to tear down the barbed wire and fill the hole with water and goldfish. Of course, it was just a prank. On the night of the Bon Festival, we caught some fish from the goldfish scooping stall. Then, we told our parents we were going to see the fireflies or something, and made our way towards the school. When we got there, we cut the barbed wire with some pliers we brought from home, then started to fill the hole with water from the nearby hose. When it was full, A and B released the goldfish, while C and I put the hose away. But then suddenly, we heard B scream. Rushing back, we saw A squatting on the ground. He had dropped a single telescope goldfish there, and he was plucking its eyes and fins off. Even now, I clearly remember the weird sight of the goldfish's scales glistening in the torchlight. After we released all the other goldfish into the water, A suddenly grabbed yet another one and began doing the same thing. Terrified and confused, the rest of us froze. But then A lifted his face from the fish and pointed to the holding pond. At that moment, we heard a splash, like a carp jumping in the water. There shouldn't have been anything in there but the goldfish, and terrified, B, C, and I ran, leaving A behind. Even though we were scared, I later came to regret leaving A behind when we should have taken him with us. We ran aimlessly, and then at some point started making our way towards the shrine near the festival. As we passed some spring water on the way, we heard that splashing sound yet again. Of course, there were no fish or anything inside it. The sound drove us mad with fear, and the 3 of us cried as we ran. Then, a young man we didn't know wearing a yukata found us and took us into his care. He took us to a nearby shrine for a snake god, and there he gave each of us a candied apple and helped us calm down. When we explained what happened to him, the young man began to panic. "You must not cross the river again today. Do you hear me? And don't go near the school either. You wait right here until someone comes to get you. Don't speak to anyone either," he said, and then he left. Before long, the janitor arrived to pick us up. He made us tell him absolutely everything that had happened that night, and then we had to spend the rest of the night at a friend's house nearby. It seemed the janitor had explained what was going on to our friend's parents. The next morning, we went back to school with the janitor. All that was left of the goldfish in the holding pond was their fins. The janitor then shaved all our heads, tossing half the hair into the holding pond and burying the rest back at the snake god's shrine. As for A, nobody knew where he went after that night, but a few days later, they found him at the snake god's shrine. When we heard he'd been taken in, we went to apologize for leaving him behind. But he simply cackled like a madman and screamed that he hated us and we were just getting in his way. His home environment wasn't that great, and perhaps because of that, they didn't even report him missing. That was perhaps the final straw, and soon A's parents got divorced, and A himself was sent to a facility. During the summer holidays, that holding pond was then hidden inside a small shed that was then locked with a heavy padlock. The janitor seemed to know something about that splashing sound, and the young man we ran into, but he refused to tell us anything about it. However, he told us that we should put our hands together in prayer whenever we passed the snake god. So I think that young man must have been a kami-sama. A group of students break into their school one night just to poke around and have a little fun. But while there, they discover the real reason the teachers refuse to patrol the 3rd floor anymore. What's lurking up there with them? Find out in Mealtime. I don't know how true this story is, but let me tell you about it anyway. It comes from a classmate of mine from vocational school. So, this guy had a friend whose older brother was somewhat of a delinquent. He liked to sneak into the school at night and steal beakers from the science room and stuff like that. This was a time before security cameras and such were commonplace. So one day, this guy decided to sneak into the school again with his friends, A, B, and B's girlfriend. But this time, something was different to usual. To get into the school, first they had to go around to the back and climb up the steel ladder there to get on the roof. Then, they could open the door on the roof that they'd left unlocked in advance, and then enter the building that way. The janitor and teachers honestly didn't seem to notice or care about that door. Probably because they didn't think anyone would actually try to use it. Nobody had ever been hurt using it, so... Anyway, the difference this time was that when they opened the door on the roof, there were stairs leading to the 3rd floor, and there was another door at the bottom. Opening that would take you to the 3rd floor, but these stairs were especially cold this time around. It was July, and the only locations in the school with any sort of air conditioning were the staff room and the principal's office. Still, they had come this far, so they ignored it and kept going. Opening the door from the roof took you to the arts and crafts room and the home economics room, and they could hear something rattling inside the home economics room in particular. B's girlfriend was too scared to look, but the other 3 stuck their heads in to see what was making the noise. The room was empty. It was probably just something creaking because of how horribly cold the hall was. And so they wandered around for a bit, chatting about this and that, and as they kicked back in their own classroom, suddenly the door opened. "Hey!" All 4 of them jumped. It was their friend, C. He'd arrived a little late, meaning to join them at B's house, but something had kept him back. And so, as the conversation livened up, C said something interesting. "Oh yeah, so Did so-and-so Chan make that stuff in the home ec room? He was talking about B's girlfriend. How the hell did she manage that? And the lights are still on. Did you prepare it beforehand? At first, they had no idea what C was talking about. But apparently, the lights in the home economics room were on, and there was Japanese-style food on the tables. It smells great, man. Trembling, they went to check it out, but the lights were off. C must have been playing a trick on them, they thought. But there, in the sink, were the remains of numerous dishes that had clearly been used. The 5 friends panicked and ran back the way they came, crying the whole way. They later discovered that something like this had happened before, and this was the reason the janitor and teachers didn't patrol that area very much. The most shocking incident involved the PE teacher patrolling the 3rd floor, walking past the home economics room and then finding over a dozen dishes suddenly prepared with rice upon his return. They hadn't been there just moments earlier. As such, people started to call this strange phenomenon mealtime. And they might still be holding their feasts in that room, even now. And finally this week, a 3rd grade teacher seems to have, well, eyes in the back of her head. Nothing gets past her, literally, and her students are unable to figure out why. What's really going on? Find out in Eyes in the Back of My Head. This happened around 23 years ago, when I was in the 3rd grade of elementary school. Our teacher had this really strange ability. She was in her 30s or so, I think, and you know how kids like to start doing silly things and pulling pranks when the teacher turns around to write on the blackboard, right? Like, we'd pass each other letters, throw things across the room, stand up and walk around, etc. Well, whenever this teacher had her back to us and someone tried to do something like that, she immediately noticed. Every single time. "Don't you dare throw that eraser," she'd say. "You two, stop passing letters. Sit back down in your seat right now." She would say things like this with her back still to us. She was the only teacher like this, so it was really strange. "Miss, how come you always know what we're doing even when you're looking at the blackboard?" someone asked her one day during class. When I grew up, the Kami-sama gifted me this ability. It's like I have eyes in the back of my head, so I can see what you're doing, she stated clearly. We were kids, sure, but there was no way we could believe that. And so we questioned her. "Okay, then close your eyes and turn around," someone said. The teacher did as requested, turning to face the blackboard and closing her eyes. Then that kid swung both his arms around. "What am I doing right now?" he asked. "You're swinging both your arms," she said, answering correctly. Everyone started chatting at once. I moved so I could see the teacher's face, and she really did have her eyes shut tight. But even supposing her eyes were open, the only thing in front of her was the blackboard, and it wasn't like things could reflect off it like a mirror. Oh, and I should mention that she didn't wear glasses either. Even so, several students still questioned her. "Miss, you have your eyes open, don't you?" "No, I do not," she said. "Then, can we stand in front of you and check?" "Yes, of course," she answered, as though she knew that wouldn't change anything. And so, 3 students stood in front of her, carefully watching her face. "Okay, I'll go again," said that same student who swung his arms around. This time, he lifted his right arm in the air and raised his fingers like a pair of scissors. "You have your right hand in the air, making a pair of scissors," the teacher said. "Her eyes are closed," the students in front of her screamed. Everyone was shocked, and the classroom filled with noise again. "Okay, what am I doing?" another student asked. He crossed both arms in front of him like an X. "You have your arms crossed like an X," the teacher replied without hesitation. The entire class was stunned. I was also so shocked that I still clearly remember it, even now. "Okay, how about me?" somebody else asked. "What am I doing?" asked another. One after the other, students kept asking her what they were doing, but it seemed she was now fed up with it. Yes, all right, that's enough. You're all satisfied, yes? Now let's get back to our lesson." She sent the students at the front of the class back to their seats and got everyone to calm down before starting class again. And yet, everyone still looked confused and not entirely convinced. This strange incident started to spread, not just through our class, but the entire school. Rumours began to spread that the teacher had psychic abilities. I was perhaps pure or stupid enough, however, to believe her when she said that the Kami-sama gifted her these abilities when she grew up. But around 1 month later, suddenly, our teacher quit. It's incredibly rare for an elementary school teacher to quit during the year, right? And not only that, but the vice principal himself took over until a new teacher arrived. We were shocked that she quit so suddenly, but we were also shocked that the vice principal took over for her. So I also clearly remember that even now. He wouldn't tell us why she quit, however, and simply told us that it was personal. In the end, we never found out why. I think it was shortly after the summer holidays that our new teacher arrived, but I don't really remember much of the 3rd grade other than that. I also don't remember much of what happened before or after that incident, but I do recall that there was no information whatsoever regarding that strange teacher. I'm about the same age as that teacher now, but sadly, the Kami-sama never gifted me eyes in the back of my head. Just what on earth was going on with that teacher? If there was some trick to her ability to see things, I'd sure love to know how she did it. A massive thank you and shout out to this week's Kami tier members, Emerald and Kenneth Kawamoto. It's thanks to your support, along with everybody else, that I'm able to keep doing this show, so thank you very much. Don't forget to check out Toshiden, Exploring Japanese Urban Legends Volume 4, out right now. And check out our merchandise store at kawabana-shop.fourthwall.com. And if you'd like to chat about this week's stories, come and join us in the Kawabana Discord. You can find that link in the description or on kawabana.net. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TaraADevlin for exclusive bonus stories and extras, or our YouTube channel at youtube.com/KawabanaJapan for all sorts of Japanese horror you won't find anywhere else. Thanks guys, stay safe, and I'll see you again next time for even more Kawabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. Want even more scary stories? Head over to kawabana.net for new translations every week. You can also join our Patreon for exclusive stories you won't find anywhere else. Head over to kawabana.net now.